Okay. So moving on, now we'll talk about auto, diesel, and Brayton cycles. So these are basically used for your automobile applications and gas turbine application for airplane or even let's say missiles. Okay, so these are the various devices where we use this engine. So can anyone guess which uh, device has which cycle operates on which cycle? So for example, your motorcycle or scooter. Yes,
Motorcycle, sir.
motorcycle operates on autocycle. What
Motorcycle.
about truck,
Diesel cycles.
Diesel.
diesel? What about car?
Both.
Both.
Sometimes diesel
Car,
and sometimes auto.
correct. And lastly, what about the plane?
Brayton cycles.
Brayton cycle. So as you rightly pointed out, auto cycle is for petrol. Any engine running on petrol runs on auto cycle, and engines running on diesel runs on diesel cycle. So since we have both petrol cars and diesel cars, so we have both the cycles depending on what design you are using. And gas turbine engines runs on Brayton cycle. Okay, so we'll look through what are the processes involved in these cycles, and then we'll try to calculate what is the work done, what is the heat required, and how much efficiency is obtained using these cycles. And we will also talk about methods to improve efficiency. Moving on. So before we go to detailed cycle analysis, let us have a look at some common engine terms. What are the terms used for IC engine operations? So basically, this is how your engine look like, a schematic of piston cylinder. Basically, it is a piston cylinder arrangement, right? So in this arrangement, you have one intake valve and exhaust valve. So when you talk about ideal cycle, we'll say that we are heating or cooling the air. But in real engines, we have, it is an open system as we discussed. So air will come through the inlet valve, intake valve, and it will get exhausted through the exhaust valve. So these two valves are there. Then this piston moves up and down. So the highest position it moves, that is called TDC, top dead center. Okay, and then it is limited, so it is restricted. It cannot go, it cannot come out from this. So it is restricted to be move in between these two locations. So the top one is called top dead center, and this is called bottom dead center. So the piston moves between these two, and this length is called stroke. Another dimension is bore. So the diameter of the cylinder is called bore. Okay. Now let us look at some volumes. So the piston is moving from bottom to top dead center, which we call stroke. Now if you take the volume inside this shaded volume, this is called displacement volume. This is basically how much. Let us say you can basically say multiply stroke by area, bore into pi into bore square. Okay, pi d square into this length. So this volume is called displacement volume. Now when it hits the top, some volume will be left. So that volume is called clearance volume. Okay, it is not going to hit the top. It will have some gap between the cylinder head and piston. That volume is called clearance volume. Now let us define some ratios. So compression ratio is defined as maximum by minimum volume. So basically, whatever volume is there, total volume is there here at BDC divided by total volume at TDC. So this is clearance volume. This is BDC is clearance plus displacement volume. This total volume is on the numerator, and on the bottom denominator we have this volume TDC. And generally we have compression ratio in the range of this range for petrol and diesel engines. Okay, it could be slightly up or down, but this is the approximate range that we operate with. And in general, we'll see that diesel engines have higher pressure ratios as compared to petrol engine. Okay, now let us talk about something called mean effective pressure. Okay, now let us say this is a cycle, could be any cycle, and as we have understood that the work done by the cycle will be the area inside the cycle, right? Whatever the positive area is there.
Sir,
Yes.
सर ये
Yes.
आर का ये इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा सर? ये आर का मतलब सर, ये आर का जो वैल्यू होगा वो ग्रेटर देन 1 होगा या लेस देन 1? तो मतलब सर ये कैसे, मतलब सर
It
ये
will
होगा
always
पॉसिबल?
be, it will always be more than one, right? See,
सर
whatever
सर
you
ये
have.
तो है
Yes.
सर, जब बीडीसी अपॉन ये जब हम ये टीडीसी करेंगे तो सर ये तो ये जनरल सी बात है कि सर ये लेस देन 1 ही होगा
नहीं.
सर, क्योंकि ये तो टोटल वैल्यूम है ना सर डिनोमिनेटर में।
No. Numerator is BDC's bottom dead center. So the piston is here. Okay, look in this figure. So piston is here for this. Okay, let me draw it for you. Okay, so Vmax is volume when the piston is at bottom dead center. So it means
यस
piston is here. This total volume you are taking into account. This is your
यस
numerator. Okay. Denominator is TDC. It means the piston is at the top. So this volume you are taking into account.
यस सर
So if you divide this by this, will not be more than one.
यस सर यस सर
This, okay.
वाई गॉट इट,
So
यस सर
we'll see how basically when you go to the cycle, we'll try to calculate efficiency and we'll use this ratio. So just wait for a few slides. You'll see how we basically, if you are given an engine, you know what is the compression ratio. So based on that, you can calculate the efficiency. That is what we are trying to do here. Okay. So this is how basically you classify engines. So when you in third year you will have you will study IC engines. So you'll study in more detail. So this is one of the very basic parameter when we talk about any engine compression ratio. Okay. Now now let us talk about mean effective pressure. So what we have seen is that if you have a cycle, the net area which is enclosed by that cycle, this will give you net work done. Okay. Now, what we are going to do is we define a mean effective pressure. Okay, it is a theoretical value. So basically, what we do is we define volume between V min and V max, and we take an area such that this area, let me throw it. Okay, so mean effective pressure is defined in such a way that this area is basically equal to the area of your cycle. So the idea is that let me first finish this. So the idea is that you see the pressure is varying throughout a cycle. Pressure is increasing or decreasing. So instead of that, I define one mean effective pressure. So this is the mean pressure. You multiply it with delta V and you get the work done. Okay, instead of doing PdV for the whole cycle, what I can do is I can write mean effective pressure and I can do PdV where dV is the delta V of this and P is basically constant to MEP. That is the whole idea. So you define mean effective pressure for a cycle so that you get the same work done, and this will be different for different cycle. That's all.
सर मीन इफेक्टिव प्रेशर सर गिवन होगा कि सर हमको मतलब सर किसी भी वे में सर
You
निकालना
need to
पड़ेगा?
calculate. You need to calculate. So this basically, if you are given a cycle, you can calculate W net. Okay. कोई भी cycle दिया हो, you can easily calculate what is the area enclosed in the cycle, right? This is the area that is there. So based on that, you can calculate what is the net work done by the cycle. Okay. If you have the net work done, if you know what is the delta V, simply you can divide net work done by displacement volume. You will get mean effective pressure. That's it. You have to calculate. Okay. So
यस
mean effective pressure is defined as work done by delta V, and it could also be, you can also calculate it for using both extensive properties or intensive or specific properties. So this is specific volume, this is specific work. Okay, so these are some terms. So for example, if you have a numerical, either you are given the whole area or you are given what is the mean effective pressure and you find out efficiency or what is the delta V, things like that. Okay, now let us see how an auto cycle looks like. So we'll first see how a real cycle in an actual engine works, then we'll look at ideal cycle. So what happens in a real cycle is these are the 4 strokes that anyway we will not go into detail. We'll look at, basically we'll try to focus what is going on in this stroke. So first we have compression stroke where the air fuel mixture is compressed. Okay, so first you take, actually this should be your first intake stroke. So you intake or you take air from the ambient and then you compress that air. Okay, once that air is compressed, then you switch on the spark ignition. The air, basically it will be air plus fuel, air plus petrol, so that mixture burns. So this is called power stroke, when you burn and it starts to expand. When it expands, then after that you also do exhaust stroke. So you compress it back and exhaust valve is open, so it is thrown out. And next, once you throw out, then you take fresh mixture. This is called intake stroke. Is this clear what is happening here?
Yes, sir.
Now let us ideal cycle. What we assume. So let me just put it. Okay, that's fine. So in ideal cycle, what we'll assume is that this compression is isentropic. Okay, basically we assume there is no heat transfer when you do compression. So that is called isentropic. Adiabatic, reversible adiabatic is isentropic compression. Second is when we add heat. Okay, so in ideal cycle we assume that volume is constant. For Otto cycle we have constant volume heat addition. So here we are burning fuel. Here in ideal cycle we assume that there is no burning, only air is there. So you have a high temperature heat reservoir which supplies heat at constant volume. Okay, now we have exhaust stroke. So instead of that we have isentropic expansion. Sorry, isentropic expansion is there. It is basically a part of this power stroke. Okay, so you transfer it at constant volume and then you expand it isentropically. And the last step is heat rejection. So instead of doing exhaust and intake, I say that we have an air which is at high temperature. I reject heat and then it brings back to the same initial conditions. Okay, now this is a video for a real cycle. So you can see it is some special engine. So don't worry about that. But basically you can see that this is the intake valve. Fuel and air mixture comes inside. Then it is ignited, it burns, and then it goes out using this exhaust port. Okay. So these are the different processes which are written here. So this is how your petrol engine works on Otto cycle. Now let us look at the processes. So your first process is 1 to 2 isentropic compression. So basically you're reducing the volume from BDC to TDC. So if you remember, let me just draw the piston cylinder for you. So this is the highest the piston will reach. This is the lowest the piston will reach. So this is your top dead center TDC. This is your bottom dead center BDC. Okay, so this is the range where the piston can move, and this will define your volume. So volume will be maximum at BDC, volume will be minimum at TDC. Can anyone tell me what is the volume here? We have used one term, volume at the TDC. What is that called?
Clearance.
Clearance volume.
Compression volume.
No, clearance volume. So this is clearance volume and this is swept volume. If you just look at this area, this is swept volume. So this is clearance volume. This is clearance plus swept volume. Okay. Now let us look at the processes involved. So the first step is isentropic compression. Okay. So we are compressing from 1 to 2. We are basically moving this piston from bottom to top. Okay. We are here. This is at the bottom. Sorry. Draw this again. Okay, so the first step at 1, the piston is at bottom dead center. It is like this. Okay, second step, it is a compression step, so it goes up, it is at the top dead center. And we assume that this process is isentropic compression. Now at the top dead center, I say that we add heat at constant volume. Okay, so this is constant volume heat addition, and because you are heating, the pressure will increase from 2 to 3. This is isochoric or constant volume heat addition. Now the third step is that we allow it to expand. Again, from TDC to BDC, it expands, and this is done isentropically. So basically, if you don't allow heat transfer, then it will be adiabatic. And if the adiabatic process is reversible, we call it isentropic. So isentropic expansion from TDC to BDC is the last step. And okay, one more step is, after this, we allow the heat to escape. We allow heat transfer to Q out, basically, which is low temperature reservoir. So instead of in real cycle, we exhaust the gas. In ideal cycle, we say that it is lost at constant volume. Okay, and we again come back to the original state, which is state 1. So similarly, we can draw this in a TS plot. So 1 to 2 is isentropic. So we see a straight line in S axis. Then 2 to 3 is constant volume heat addition. So which is one shown here. So 2 to 3, you add heat. So you basically increase temperature and you also increase pressure. Then 3 to 4, it is a isentropic expansion. So you see that entropy is constant and temperature is getting decreased. Then the fourth step is constant volume heat rejection. So what we see here, so the same things are drawn in TS plot. Are the processes clear here? Based on this, we'll now try to find out the work done in each process, what is the work done, what is heat transfer, and then we'll calculate what is the efficiency for this particular cycle. So any questions on these processes? Okay, so let's see how to calculate work done and heat transfer. Okay, before we go there, let us also discuss one interesting thing. So in ideal cycle, we say that everything is happening ideally. Okay, and especially one interesting aspect is, how do you take intake and exhaust? So in ideal cycle, we assume that basically we don't intake, but the cycle point is at atmospheric conditions. Okay, but in real cycle, what happens is, when you intake, so basically you have to, your pressure inside the cylinder is lower than atmospheric. Okay, then only, so suppose this is your piston, your exhaust intake valve is open, so air is coming, exhaust valve is closed. So air is coming in. Why air is coming in? Because the inside pressure is lower than atmospheric. Piston is basically sucking there. It is like an injection. So piston is moving down. Because of that, the inside pressure is lower than atmospheric, then only air enters. So if you see, this is lower than atmospheric. Similarly, when you exhaust, so when you exhaust means piston is pushing out. So basically we force the burnt air to go out, right? So for that condition, it will be slightly higher than the atmospheric. We are pushing it out through a narrow hole. So this is exhaust valve will open. We push out the burnt gases. Okay. So for both these conditions, we are not at atmospheric. We are either above atmospheric or we are below atmospheric. But in ideal cycle, we assume that everything happens at atmospheric or ambient pressure condition. Secondly, as you can see that ideal cycle, we assume all ideal processes. So we say that the complete heat transfer is done at constant volume, which is not true for real cycles. So real cycles, you can see that volume is also changing. So here I ignited, this is the end of combustion, the volume is changing throughout. Similarly, exhaust valve opens here, so the exhaust starts to happen, which is not true for ideal cycle. So these are some major differences what you see between a ideal and real cycle. Okay, so we will do our analysis on these cycles, but you should be clear with that there are some differences, and this is basically an approximation. That's all. Ideal cycle is an approximation which helps us to calculate parameters easily. Moving on, now let us look at the efficiency. So how do we calculate? We'll basically use the same equation. We'll talk about how much network is done and how much heat is supplied to the engine. Okay, so this is basically a heat engine which is operating between two temperature reservoirs. Okay, similarly what we have been studying throughout this course. So let us say this is at TH and TL. So where do you see TH here in this cycle? In which processes can anyone tell? Between what 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, where the TH is coming and where TL is coming?
2 to 3 is TH.
Yes, this is TH.
And 4 to 1 is TL.
Correct. This is TL. Here we extract heat. So the same way we study this cycle also. So this is how we define the efficiency. Now let us see how we calculate the network done. So QL can be written as MCV delta T, T4 minus T1. This is QL or Q out. And similarly QH is MCV, this is at constant volume, delta T, T3 minus T2. Fine. So based on this, I can say Otto cycle efficiency is 1 minus, basically do some rearrangement, that's it. So I can take T1 common from here, I'll have T4 minus T1 minus 1, and I take T3 common from this, so I have T2 common, so I have T2 multiplied by T2 by T3 minus 1. Same thing with some rearrangement, that's all. Now, for compression step and expansion processes, these are basically isentropic processes. So for those processes, I can relate temperature and volume like this, or I can say that you see V1 and V2, these are maximum and minimum volumes. So I can say Vmax and Vmin. Similarly for T3 and T4, I can write Vmax and Vmin in these terms. So basically Vmax by Vmin, what is this? This is what we call R, right? This is our compression ratio which we have defined. So I can say that T2 by T1 or T3 by T4 is equal to R to the power gamma minus 1. And these two are equal. Or I can also say T4 by T1 if you do rearrangement. So if you take T4 here and T2 here, so I can say T4 by T1 is equal to T3 by T2. Okay, now if you look at, let me remove this first. Okay, if you look at this ratio, what we have done. So here, can you see T4 by T1?
Yes, sir.
That is why we did rearrangement. And we also see T3 by T2. Okay, now we can, using this, we can further simplify. So, this is what we have derived. Now, I can cancel this. So, this bracket will be the same. So, we are left with 1 minus T1 by T2. Okay, now again, T1 by T2 is R to the power gamma minus 1, T2 by T1. So, T1 by T2 will be reverse of that. So, it will be 1 minus 1 to the 1 divided by R to the power gamma minus 1. So, this is how we define efficiency of Otto cycle. And basically what it says is that the efficiency will depend on what is your compression ratio, right? So, this becomes a very important parameter for defining efficiency. So, if you plot this efficiency, this basically this formula for different compression ratios and for different K, or this is basically this is gamma. So gamma we generally take for air as 1.4, but it could change with different gases or at different temperatures. Basically, depending on what mixture you are using at what temperature, so it could also change. So what we see here is that it keeps on increasing with compression ratio. The higher compression ratio you have, the higher efficiency you will get. And this is how basically it varies. The efficiency is shown in y-axis. So it is increasing with compression ratio, and it also increases with, if you for the same compression ratio, if you have different gamma, so it will increase with gamma. Is this clear to everyone? Okay, moving on. So we'll now talk about diesel cycle. So what is the basic difference between Otto cycle and diesel cycle? In Otto cycle, we use a spark plug and we basically ignite this air fuel mixture. In diesel, this is basically petrol or gasoline. In diesel cycle, what happens is that you inject air, and then on top of that you add fuel spray. So basically, this is not mixed with air, but it gets separately. And once you add, because so basically the design is that because of compression, the temperature is quite high in a diesel cycle, and when you inject fuel in that high temperature, high pressure environment, it burns itself. It is basically called auto ignition. So for example, you have heard of phosphorus. Phosphorus burns if you expose it to air. So the auto ignition temperature of phosphorus is quite low. Similarly, all fuels have auto ignition temperatures. So the idea is that in diesel engine, we reach that auto ignition temperature and then we inject. So as soon as it comes out, it starts burning. Fuel spray starts burning, it catches fire. Okay. Now, when you talk about ideal cycle, the basic difference is that the heating or the combustion process is assumed to occur at constant volume in a petrol engine or auto cycle, whereas for a diesel cycle, we assume that this happens at constant pressure. So the combustion is happening at a constant pressure. So this piston can basically move. Here the piston cannot move because this is a constant volume. Here the pressure is constant. So if you add more heat, you need to move this piston down such that the pressure remains at same pressure level. Okay, let us now look at the cycle again.
सर एक बार डीजल साइकिल वापस सुनाओ.
Diesel cycle, I will explain in this slide. Okay, so what happens in diesel cycle? First stage is compression. So basically you have a fresh charge. You have air inside and then you start to compress that air. Once you reach the TDC, then you inject fuel and the fuel starts burning. So this process is power stroke is for diesel cycle we assume this happens at constant pressure. Okay. Now when you have burnt fuel, so you will exhaust. So the piston goes up and it pushes the burnt gases out. Okay. You open the exhaust valve and you let the gases go out. Then for inlet, then you want to get fresh gas again, right? So then you open the inlet valve and this is moving, piston is moving down. So the inlet air is sucked inside. Then again the cycle repeats. So basically we are doing the similar operations as we have done for petrol engine. Only difference is that petrol engine in the intake stroke, okay, we take here we take both air plus fuel mixture. For diesel we take only air. There is no fuel here, and we are injecting fuel at power stroke. We inject and fuel burns. And another difference is that there is no spark plug involved. It auto ignites. Okay. And when you talk about a cycle, when we are basically looking for efficiency and work done, then a major difference is that the heat transfer is at constant pressure. For auto cycle, it was at constant volume. For diesel cycle, it is at constant pressure. That is the major difference between auto and diesel cycles. That will look at the next slide. So is this thing clear? This slide is clear to everyone? Who was asking for this to explain. Now you are clear what happens in a diesel cycle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us look at, okay, one more video is there. So you can see first stroke, air is coming inside, then diesel is injected, it burns, and then there's a spark plug. Sorry, okay, this is a petrol engine. I'm sorry. Whenever you have a spark plug, it is a petrol engine. I have put a wrong figure here. Anyway, so this is what a diesel engine will look like. Moving on. So this is how a diesel cycle looks. Okay, so the first step is process 1 to 2. This is isentropic compression. So you are reducing volume from V1 to V2. Then this is the difference. So in petrol cycle you have constant volume heat addition. Now here you have constant pressure heat addition, Q in. Then again you have isentropic expansion from 3 to 4. And the last step is isochoric heat rejection. So heat rejection is same. So if you compare a diesel and Otto cycle, let me draw it. So Otto cycle is Otto cycle is like this. You have constant volume heat addition. Okay. Then other processes are actually same. So you have isentropic expansion, you have isentropic compression, you have constant volume heat rejection. So these three steps are same for Otto and diesel. Only difference is that for Otto cycle I have constant volume heat addition, here I have constant pressure heat addition. That is what is different. Otherwise the processes are same. And the same thing is shown in TS plot. So you have isentropic compression. So basically your temperature and pressure both increases as you compress, volume is decreasing. Then you have constant pressure heat addition. Again 3 to 4 is isentropic expansion. So your temperature goes down, volume increases. And last step is constant volume heat rejection, which is same as Otto cycle. Now let us talk about the efficiency of the cycle. We use the same formula.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, I have a question that in the diesel cycle there is no ignition, मतलब ignite मतलब वो नहीं होता, तो इसमें heat in कैसे हो रही है? Q in how?
There is no ignition, but we are burning fuel, right? So that's what I explained. This is auto ignition. As soon as you inject fuel, it will start burning. We don't have an igniter, but this fuel burns on its own.
तो sir, अच्छा, yes sir, okay.
Okay.
Yes sir.
So that is the burning process is what we are assuming it happens at constant pressure. And for ideal cycle, we assume that we are adding heat. The combustion part we are replacing by heat addition. That's all.
Sir,
Yes. Yes. Please go ahead. Someone was asking question.
सर ये क्यू ये इन मतलब ये कैसे हो रहा है सर क्योंकि ये क्यू आउट तो सर ये समझ में आ रहा है, लेकिन सर ये क्यू इन मतलब सर ये कोई भी प्रोसेस अगर एक क्लोज सिस्टम में है तो सर ये क्यू इन मतलब सर ये कैसे हो रहा है, क्योंकि हम
Basically, okay.
अप्लाई नहीं कर रहे हैं.
Yes. So basically, if you remember, we talked about heat engines. We said that two temperatures are there: heat reservoirs TH and TL. याद है ना? We studied initially.
यस सर.
So here we said that Q is supplied. So this is QH, or you can call it Q in. Here it is written Q in. This is basically QH. You can say that this is QH. Now is it clear?
यस सर.
sir,
So this is a yes.
or as the diesel cycle is isobaric, so Q will be more, no? Q required. Then
Yeah, that will come. That will come to when we talk about efficiency. Then it will be clear.
so it will not be favorable for us now, sir.
It will be. Let me finish that part first. First, if you have any questions, you ask now. Otherwise, just wait for that. Let me talk about efficiency. Then I will show you a comparison of efficiency between diesel and Otto. Okay. So any questions on this plot, or should we move ahead? Okay, moving on. So let us talk about the efficiency now. So again, the same equation we'll use. So basically, see, all of these are heat engines and they are operating on this principle only. They are operating on they are basically running between two temperature sources, TH and TL. That is the same thing is happening with let us say Carnot cycle, Otto cycle, diesel cycle. So we'll start with the same equation and then we'll try to calculate how much heat is lost, how much work is done, how much is supplied. So now here I will talk about QL and QH. So which is actually shown, this should be, this is QH and this is QL. Okay, I am showing different symbols here. So this, don't get confused. So whatever is supplied to the system is QH and whatever is extracted from the system is QL. Okay, now QL is happening at constant volume. So I can say MCV delta T. Similarly, QH is supplied at constant pressure. So I'll say MCP delta T. Okay, now this can be written as, because M will get cancelled, CP by CV is gamma. So I'll say 1 by gamma and T4 minus T1, T3 minus T1. Similarly, what we have done for Otto cycle. Now for let us look at the compression process, which is isentropic. So for isentropic process, I can write temperature and volume. I can relate in this by this equation. Now V1 and V2 are minimum and maximum volumes. So I can write it in this way. And this can be related to compression ratio. So Vmax by Vmin is basically our compression ratio, or what we have defined previously. So I can say that T2 is equal to T1 into R to the power gamma minus 1. Right? Similarly, we can define for heat addition process 2 to 3, V2 by T2 is equal to V3 by T3. Okay, constant pressure heat addition. So constant pressure means if you put this in ideal gas, we can relate volume and temperature like this, because P2 is equal to P3. So that's why we can say that volume and temperature are related. Okay, now using this, I can say that T3 is equal to T2 into, basically we have just rearranged. So T3 will go that side and these two will come this side. So we have T2 into V3 by V2. Now let us define another ratio which is called cutoff ratio. So cutoff ratio is V3 by V2. Okay, if you look at this cycle. So I can say P3 is T2 into RC, cutoff ratio. Fine. So we have two relations. One is for T2 and T1. One is for T3 and T2. Or in other terms, we can also say that if you use T2, this is just I'm writing it again. So if you combine these two equations, what we can see is that T3 is equal to T1 into R to the power gamma minus 1 into RC. So I can relate T3 to T1. So I have relation between T3, T2, T2 and T1, and finally we can relate T3 and T1. So let us look at the last process, which is isentropic expansion 3 to 4. So again, for isentropic process, I can write temperature and volume like this. So let us do some rearrangement. So let us say I divide and multiply by V2. We will have different ratios. This one is RC and this one is 1 by R. Okay. So I can write T4 by T3 in this, in terms of compression and cutoff ratios. So I will suggest you also try to derive this and see whether you are getting where you are able to derive or not. So in that way it will be more clear. Now from this we can see that T4 and T3 can be related to each other like this in terms of compression and cutoff ratios. Or I can say that, okay, from the last slide I had this relation, right? T3 in terms of T1. So if you look at these two relations, you can say that T4 is equal to T1 into R to the power RC to the power gamma. So basically this R to the power gamma minus 1 gets cancelled. And let us go back to the original equation, what we derived. For diesel cycle efficiency, this is what we have. So basically we have all the four temperatures. Now we have derived relationship between different temperature values so that we can use to simplify this. So if you substitute these values, what you get is, this is the final form of efficiency for diesel engine. Okay, so basically we are replacing these temperature values with these relations. Fine, you can try and see whether you are getting the same value or not. Okay, so this is efficiency for diesel cycle. Now let us plot this. Similarly, so this is the equation that we have got in the last slide, and we'll try to see how the diesel cycle efficiency varies with compression ratio. So similarly, we see that as you keep on increasing the compression ratio, the efficiency increases. Okay, it also is affected by RC. RC is the cutoff ratio. So if you do RC is equal to 1, it becomes Otto cycle. Okay, so if you go back, what is RC? RC we defined as V3 by V2. Okay, these two volumes are RC. If you say V2 and V3, these two are same, then basically we are saying that your heat transfer becomes constant volume. So then it becomes Otto cycle. Constant volume heat transfer is Otto cycle. So what we see is that the efficiency of a diesel cycle increases with compression ratio, and it also increases with change in RC, basically decrease in RC. Is this not clear to everyone? Okay, now let us.
RC becomes 1 or gamma becomes
Yes.
1. RC becomes 1.
RC
So,
becomes, you see RC.
RC, achha, it'll get RC will get cancelled up and down that way.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you, okay, yeah, in this equation also, if you cancel this, RC becomes 1, this will be 0, this will be 0. So left with this is basically the equation for Otto cycle.
Okay.
Okay, now let us talk about another interesting cycle, which is basically a combination of Otto and diesel cycle. So what we do here is basically we do heat transfer. There are two processes involved. One will be, I say, constant volume, and one will be constant pressure. So we had add heat using two different, basically two reservoirs or two temperature sinks. Two temperature sources. So the first process is similar what we have shown so far. First process is isentropic compression. We compress from V1 to V2, and then we maintain a constant volume and we add heat. Basically what we do in Otto cycle. So we do isochloric heat addition. Then we, in second step, we add heat in constant pressure mode. So this is what is similar to diesel cycle, isobaric heat addition. And then we allow it to expand isentropically. That is basically common. Isentropic expansion and compression is common between both Otto and diesel cycles. So we let it expand, and then we extract heat at constant volume. So this is also same for diesel and petrol. What is difference is, for diesel I have constant pressure, and for Otto cycle I have constant volume. So both the processes are being used here. So this is called a mixed or dual cycle. So similarly, we also see this in TS plot. So we see constant volume heat addition and constant pressure heat addition. Other processes are actually same. Okay, now let us try to find out what will be the efficiency of this cycle. So basically, Q lost is, for Q heat loss, we just take account of this process. But for heat gain, this is the total heat supplied. So for that, we'll add these two processes. We say that this is mCV delta T, because at constant volume 2 to 3, and this is mCP because at constant pressure. Now, if you cancel CP and CV, you will get in terms of temperature. Now we'll define different ratios. So we can compression ratio we have already defined. This we have already defined. Cutoff ratio we have also defined. Now let us talk about expansion ratio. So this is basically ratio of V5 and V4. So this is RE, and we also defined constant volume pressure ratio P3 by P2. So if we basically we are trying to define different ratios, and we'll use these ratios to simplify these temperature terms. So see, basically for a actual engine, you don't know, it is difficult to measure what is the temperature reached for each process, but you can easily define what are the volume ratios. So instead of defining the efficiency in terms of temperature, we try to define in terms of known parameters. If you know temperatures, then you can as well as use this formula and calculate. There is no problem with that. But generally, the known is in terms of ratios, volume ratios. So that is what we are trying to simplify. So if I use all of this, I can say that this RC into RE using these definitions is equal to ratio of volumes, and these are basically maximum and minimum volumes. Let us say that this ratio to be R. So R is RC into RE, and these are the relation between these defined volumes. Now we'll use this to simplify this equation. That's all. That is what we are doing for each cycle. So now for process 2 to 3. What is 2 to 3? This process. So this is constant volume. Yeah, this is constant volume heat addition. So V2 and V3 should be same. And basically it is isochoric heating. So P by T will be same. This is basically use of ideal gas law, where V2 and V3 are same. So P2 and P2 by T2 is equal to P3 by T3. Or basically now I am starting to write temperature in terms of pressure ratios, which is equal to RP. And for this process 3 to 4, again we can write pressure, since the pressure is constant, so we can equate volume and temperature in this way. Similarly, we can write T3 and T2 in terms of other temperatures and these ratios what we have defined. So I'll quickly go through that. So basically in this slide what you see is that we are defining temperatures in terms of these ratios that we have defined in previous slides. Last slide, okay? Now using all that same procedure here. So using all that, this is what we have originally, right? This is what we started with. Now we define temperature for all the temperatures for using different ratios what we have defined, and finally this will be our end result. So finally for dual cycle, this is what efficiency I will get. So this is a long derivation. If you want, you can try. Finally, you should get this result for dual cycle efficiency. Basically, you have to replace these values in this equation. That's all. So use these four boxes, these four definitions for temperature, substitute them in this equation, and you will end up with this. Fine. You can try it and see. This is what you are supposed to get. Is this okay, or any questions on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let us compare what is the difference between Otto and diesel cycle. So as I mentioned, for same if we have same compression ratio and same heat loss, so you can represent Otto cycle like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is your constant pressure heat addition. This is the green what is shown, that is your Otto cycle, and the red what is shown here, this is constant pressure heat addition. So this becomes your diesel cycle. Okay. Now which will have more work done? Diesel or Otto?
Yes, sir.
Which one?
Auto
cycle.
Auto has larger area. Yes, auto has larger area inside the cycle, so it will have more work done. But the heat will also be done. Heat will also be different. Okay, so for the same compression ratio and same heat loss, we can say that auto is the most efficient and diesel will be the least. Now this dual will come basically in between both of them. Okay, or we can also define same Pmax and Tmax. Okay, so if you fix the Pmax and Tmax, this is how it will look. So what is shown in green? The green one is auto cycle. No, sorry, green one is diesel cycle. And see, this is constant pressure heat addition, so this has to be associated with diesel cycle. Now for auto cycle, we have constant volume heat addition, this one. So this is your auto cycle. Now which will have more work done or which will have more higher efficiency?
Diesel.
Diesel.
So if you fix Pmax and Tmax, we'll have higher efficiency for diesel and lower efficiency for auto, and this is again in between. Right? Generally, in actual real engines, you see that the compression ratio is higher for a diesel engine, and generally diesel gives you more efficiency. Moving on.
Sir, why are we keeping Tmax same?
So this is just to compare. If you keep everything different, how will you compare? So basically,
Because
yes.
sir, Pmax is enough. Pmax and QL is
So basically,
condition here.
so when you fix Tmax, we are seeing that we are reaching to the same point T3. See, when you are comparing, if we have different pressure or temperature conditions, it is not a fair comparison. So we need to keep things same or constant, then only we can compare, right? Okay, your question is that if we fix Pmax, Tmax is fixed. That is what you are saying?
Pmax and QL.
Okay, but okay, let us, if you fix Pmax, if you fix Tmax, P is not fixed, so P can also vary. For example, this could go up, then this cycle will be different. Okay, now we are basically talking about, so if you keep this fixed, we are basically talking about the same envelope, and inside we can divide, we can see that this is diesel and this is auto. If you don't fix, then you're not able to define. This will be a different, this will have a different cycle. Okay, is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. So we are done with automobile. Let us go to how much time you have class after this, or should we wind up now? You have 5-10 minutes extra.
Yes, sir, we can wind up.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let us finish this Brayton cycle today then. So after automobile, let us go to airplane. So as we have already mentioned, when you talk about airplane, this is your engine. This is basically gas turbine engine. This is the place where you basically burn fuel, and this operates on Brayton cycle. So I have put a G engine. I was working on this engine. This is called G9X or TAPS engine. So let us, so any engine, whatever you take, whether it is less polluting, more polluting, all gas turbine engines operate on same cycle, which is called Brayton cycle. So this is a schematic we have already discussed in our initial classes. So what we see here is that there is at the front there is an intake, then you compress the air in this compression compressors, and then you burn fuel. Basically, we assume that this burning is happening as constant pressure, and then the fuel is exhausted. The burnt gases are exhausted. So this is schematically shown like this. So fresh air comes to the compressor, from step 1 to step 2, it is getting compressed. Then the compressed air is pushed to combustion chamber where it burns along with fuel. Now fuel is getting added here. Okay. Generally, we assume for our analysis purpose that the mass of fuel is negligible as compared to air. So we'll just worry about whatever m dot is coming from here. Okay. Now fuel enters here, it burns here, and it produces heat at constant pressure. And then the state is now 3. Then it goes to turbine. And basically what we do is compressor. When you are using compressor, you are doing work on this fresh air. You are compressing that air. And then you use turbine. Basically, you extract work from that. Okay. Now this is at a higher energy level. So more work is given to, or more work is done by the system on this turbine. So that energy is actually used to run this compressor. Okay. And finally, when it goes out, exhaust, so that is what keeps the engine running. That is how the engine flies, because you study Newton's second law. Okay, so you are basically pushing these gases out. So you are taking gases and you are pushing these gases out with a higher velocity. So using Newton's second law, you are basically applying a net force on this mass of gas towards the back. You are pushing it back. So a net force is applied on the engine, which is propelling it forward, right? With the same amount of opposite direction. This is Newton's third law. That is the principle of operation of basically all your jet propulsion devices, aircraft engines, rocket, missile. They all work on the same principle. Okay. Now let us look at the cycle. So as I mentioned, all the cycles, if I remember correctly, have constant entropy, compression and expansion. Okay, so let us look at step by step. So first step is isentropic compression, 1 to 2, inside the compressor, what we have seen in the last slide. Then we have isobaric heat addition, constant pressure heat addition, which is similar to what we have done in diesel cycle, constant pressure heat addition. Now we have isentropic expansion, similar to what we have seen in diesel and petrol cycle, 3 to 4. Last step is isobaric heat rejection. So the heat is rejected at constant pressure. So can anyone tell me what is the difference between Brayton cycle and diesel cycle?
The rejection is also at a pressure, constant pressure.
Yes. So for diesel cycle, we have heat loss at constant volume. This is at constant volume. For Brayton cycle, this is also at constant pressure, isobaric. Okay. The same thing is drawn in TS plot. 1 to 2 is isentropic, so it is shown a straight line here. Now the heat addition is at constant pressure. So constant pressure line is shown. Then again we have an isentropic process, 3 to 4, and finally the last process is constant pressure or isobaric heat loss. So this is the process details for Brayton cycle. So now let us try to calculate efficiency. So again the same equation, W net by QH. So now we have both the heat Q in or QH basically and QL. Both this heat transfer is at constant pressure process. So I can say MCP delta T. Okay, MCP will get cancelled. We are left with 1 minus delta T. Delta T for this and delta T for this. So again I can basically I will do some rearrangement and I will try to express this in terms of some ratio. If you know the temperature, you can calculate from this. Generally we don't know the temperature, so we'll try to use different ratios to make this equation simple. So similarly for isentropic process, this is what we have, a relation between temperature and pressure, which is equal to this we have defined as Rp to the power, this is pressure ratio or compression ratio. So again for process 3 to 4, we see similarly we define relation between temperature and pressure, and this is also same, Rp to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. So from these two, we can say that T4 by T3, T4 by T3 is equal to T1, T2 by T1. They are getting the same values, so these two temperature ratios are same. Or if we do some rearrangement, I can say T3 by T2 is equal to T4, T4 will go that side, T4 by T1. So if I replace this in this equation, we substitute this, so T4 by T1 is equal to T3 by T1. So these two gets cancelled and we're left with T1 and T2. Okay. Now T1 and T2, we know that this is equal to compression ratio, so that is what we are writing here. This is the reverse of that. So Brayton cycle efficiency is dependent on 1 minus compression ratio to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. Fine. So let us see how this efficiency varies. So basically, in a similar fashion, if you increase the pressure ratio, the efficiency of Brayton cycle increases. This follows the same trend what we have seen for Otto and diesel cycle both. Okay, and this is the range of pressure ratios. Nowadays, this is from this book. So nowadays we have pressure ratios which are much higher. In fact, I worked on this latest engine which has pressure ratio almost around more than 30 to 40. So basically, if you keep on increasing the pressure ratio, you are getting more and more efficiency. But then your temperature also increases, and you basically need new or more sturdier material. So that is the recent research, recent direction of R&D in gas turbine companies. That we try to get more and more higher pressure ratios and more efficiency. So similarly, now there is one factor, let us say T, small t, which can be defined as the ratio of maximum and minimum temperature. So if we vary that T, we can see that the pressure, specific work done also changes if you change T. Okay, so let us look at in figure. So for example, if you look at this small rectangle, which is shown here, so this RP pressure ratio is 15. If you change the pressure ratio to 8.2, it will look like this. If you change the pressure ratio to 2, it will look like this. So which one you think is the giving the most work done? Which pressure ratio will give you the maximum work done?
8.2.
8.2 because it has the largest area. Okay, so too high pressure or too low pressure is not good pressure ratio. So basically, as you see how it is drawn, the area reduces. We are interested in what is the area inside this cycle, which will give us what is the work done, specific work done, what we are discussing here. So basically, there is some optimum value. Okay, this is what we see here. For example, if you see in this T2, there is a maximum achieved. So if you have very low pressure ratio or very high pressure ratio, your work output decreases, and there is some maximum which we should try to achieve. Similarly for higher pressure ratios. So this will also after some time will also fall off. So it is not that you keep on increasing the pressure ratio and you get higher and higher efficiency. So basically you need to come to some optimum ratio. Fine. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry, I did a bit of confusion. So this is the change in RP, and also T. This ratio is kept constant for all these three. Okay, you should note it down that all these three cycles have the same Tmax by Tmin. So they have the same small t, but RP is varying. So this is what we have seen here. So if you keep the T constant and RP keeps on varying, we get an optimum ratio, optimum point where you get the maximum work done. and this is how it changes with changing the temperature ratio. So you keep on increasing the temperature ratio, you get higher efficiency, higher work done. Specific work done is shown here. Is this fine here, or should I explain it again? People are clear on this?
Yes.
Okay, moving on. So we are almost ending this chapter. So for Brayton cycle, what are the various things that we can do for improving the cycle? So if you see here, we go from 1 to 2. Okay, now if I proceed further, the area will be reduced. This will be the final area, right? Now instead of going that way, what I can do is I can cool it out. Okay, so I can bring the temperature down and then I can start compressing again. Okay, instead of going in this direction, so instead of going like this is the normal Brayton cycle how it looks. So what I did was that instead of doing the normal cycle, I did some intercooling. I cooled it down and then I compressed it again. So do you see any advantage of that? This area is increased, right? We have more area inside the cycle, so which gives you more work done. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Similarly, okay, this is little more. Correct it for you. Okay. So if I not have intercooling, it will look like this dotted line. Dotted line is basically showing your normal Brayton cycle. Now instead of going to the dotted line, we are intercooling. So this is called intercooling. So after compressor 1, I employ one intercooler which extracts some heat. So it brings down the temperature and then you compress again. So we go from 3 to 4. This is what shown here, which increases basically this extra area is added up. Now after that we can also employ regenerator, what we have studied previously. So we extract some heat here and then we supply it. We're extracting some heat from the exhaust and that heat is basically supplied to this. Okay. Now this is for this process regeneration. Now at the exit also we can employ, instead of one turbine I can have two turbine and I can do reheat. So basically if I have one turbine, it will go like this. It will come down from 6 to here. If I had two turbine, I can expand in one turbine from 6 to 7 and then I can again expand again. So this is the second turbine from 7 to 8. What you see the second turbine. And then basically we are supplying a reheater. We are using a reheater here. So it reheats from 7 to 8. It is reheating. You're supplying heat again, and then you have another turbine which will send it to exhaust. Okay. So three processes we are employing here to improve the efficiency of work done in a Brayton cycle. One is intercooling, which is shown here, intercooling, and which is shown in the plot here. So this is your intercooling. Okay, you're removing heat and then you're compressing again. Then we are having reheat in between the turbines. So this is your reheater. So what we do is, when this is coming down, it will come down like this. So instead of that, we can reheat it here. Reheat, go back to the same temperature, and then come down later. Okay. This is reheat, and again regeneration that we have discussed, that also we can employ. So we can use some amount of heat that we are throwing out and we can use it to heat another process. So these are the like simple steps which are used in actual cycles and which improve the efficiency of a Brayton cycle. So if you keep on doing this, yes.
So I really understand that. So regeneration
Regeneration we studied for your Ericsson and Stirling cycle. So basically, we see exhaust gas are generally at high temperature, right? You're throwing out some heat. So use that exhaust gas, and basically this is a heat exchanger. So you use the energy of the hot gas and you heat up here. So basically in this process you have to burn fuel and increase the temperature, right? So you can reduce the amount of fuel needed if you use some heat from here. That is the idea. And you take up some heat from the exhaust gas, and that will reduce your fuel cost. That's all.
Okay.
Okay. Now this
Sir?
is how.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, in this, what kind of process is 2 to 3? Constant volume or pressure?
2 to 3 is it is constant. Let me- Okay. So 1 to 2 is isentropic,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
2 will be it will be constant pressure. 2 to 3, yes, constant pressure. You heat, you extract heat, and then you sorry, let me go back to be clear here. That is constant pressure. Okay, so this is similar to this, right? Similar to this. So in this
Okay.
plot, we are changing, like we are doing like this, and then we're going up. So it is constant pressure.
And sir, why can't we directly go from 1 to 3?
How can you go? You want to do like this?
Yes.
So basically, we are also increasing the pressure. Okay, so 1 to 3 will be okay. 1 to 3 will be constant
Temperature.
See, whenever you compress, your temperature will increase, right? If you look at this relation, okay. So if you change your pressure ratio, your temperature will also change. For any isentropic process. Okay. So if you basically the compression happens at the compressor is assumed to be isentropic. So if you want to maintain the same temperature, then you also need to extract the heat. It cannot be isentropic process. So what we do is we let it be isentropic. We don't remove any heat from here. We remove here heat from here, and then we again compress it isentropically.
Okay. Yes.
Moving on. So now you see what changes these processes are done. So basically, yes.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, I have a question that is it necessary that this always improve the efficiency because we are increasing the work by this method, but also the Q out, Q in is also increasing. So then there is also a possibility that the net efficiency decreases.
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, when you do the cycle, when you design a system, so you take care that efficiency. So basically, Q, this is there. See, generally these cycles are operated in conjunction with other cycles. So we have something called cogeneration. So you have a thermal power installed, and with that you install this gas turbine. I have some pictures. I will put. I'll show you in the next class. So basically, what happens is that this heat is coming from that thermal plant. Basically, you are having some coal. You are burning some coal, and you have a steam power plant. So that some amount of heat you are throwing away, right? So that heat is utilized here. So overall, the plant efficiency increases. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So coming to this, so as you have seen that, let me remove this one. So as you have seen that when you do intercooling or reheat, this is how the cycle changes. The original cycle will be like this, but because of intercooling and reheat, these two steps are added. So if you keep on adding more and more of these steps. So basically you are adding more and more of reheat, or you add more and more of intercooling. This is how your cycle will look like, right? It will look like this. Is this okay? If you keep on increasing the number of reheat stages or intercooling stages, this is how your cycle will look. Now we can say that on an average it is operating like this on this path, roughly. This will be your cycle will approach to erection cycle. This is exactly what we are doing in the erection cycle. We have constant temperatures, constant temperature, heat addition and heat rejection, right? So basically what we are trying to do is, if we assume that the regeneration is perfect, we are, by increasing the number of steps, by increasing the number of stages, we are increasing the number of stages of reheat and intercooling, we are approaching erection cycle efficiency, which is equal to Carnot cycle efficiency. So we will not reach it, we cannot reach to exact Carnot, but we can be close to that. That is the whole idea. That by using these different stages, we try to improve efficiency and we try to reach Carnot efficiency. That is the whole idea behind these steps. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so with that, we'll stop for here. And if you have any questions further, we can discuss.
Sir, yesterday I sent a doubt in email about